If you're looking for more balance, clarity, and a way to live with less anxiety, you've landed on the right video. Today, I'm going to show you 6 principles from Japanese philosophy that can genuinely change the way you live your life. And if you enjoy this type of reflection, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because here, we learn how to live better. Let's dive into it. There's something deeply fascinating about Japanese culture. You might not realize it immediately, but its influence is already more present in your life than you imagine. We grew up surrounded by it, watching anime on TV, playing video games, seeing movies, practicing martial arts, admiring the discipline, the balance, and even the silence that Japan carries in its essence. But more than the visual aesthetics, the temples, the cherry blossoms, or the samurai. What truly makes Japanese culture so unique is its life philosophy. The way they see the world, people, work, and especially time. Because if you stop to think about it, today's world seems to be living at the extreme opposite: fast-paced, chaotic, noisy. We're constantly running, right? Yet, it feels like we never actually arrive. That's why this video isn't just a reflection on Japan, it's an invitation. An invitation to slow down for a few minutes, take a breath, and perhaps, just perhaps, start building a life that is more balanced, more meaningful, and most importantly, more alive. Today, I want to introduce you to 6 Japanese principles that honestly can completely transform the way you live. These aren't magic spells, nor are they empty promises. But they are, without exaggeration, the foundation of a fuller life. And believe me, if you truly absorb each one of these, if you genuinely start putting them into practice, even if it's little by little, you will feel a real difference. So, take a deep breath, and let's go. 1. Ikigai, the purpose that gives life meaning. There is one question that, sooner or later, every human being ends up asking themselves, sometimes in the silence of the early morning, sometimes stuck in traffic, or even during an existential crisis. And that question is simple, yet profoundly powerful. Why do I wake up every day? Japanese culture has a word to answer this question. Ikigai, Kigagai, can be translated as a reason for being, that which gives life meaning. The motivation for why you get out of bed in the morning. But look, don't confuse this with the idea of success that social media has sold you. Ikigai is not about owning a yacht, making 6 figures a month, working while traveling the world, or building a perfect career. In fact, Ikigai is much simpler and at the same time, much deeper. Ikigai emerges when you find the intersection point between 4 things. When these 4 pillars meet, you don't just have a career or an occupation, you have a purpose, you have a true North Star. But here's an uncomfortable truth. Ikigai doesn't have to be something grand. It could be teaching, caring, cooking, creating, listening, or building. It could be working with art, with animals, with technology, or simply being someone whose presence brings comfort to the world. And you know what's most curious? When you look at places like Okinawa, one of the regions with the highest longevity on the planet, you realize that almost everyone there knows exactly what their Ikigai is. They don't live to work, they don't work to consume. They wake up every day with clarity about their role in the community, in the family, in life. And this, according to dozens of scientific studies, has a direct impact on mental health, the immune system, and even life expectancy. Ikigai functions like an internal compass. On good days, it guides you. On bad days, it holds you steady. And if you're asking yourself now, how do I find my Ikigai? The answer isn't a ready-made formula. It comes from silence, from reflection, from questions you'll have to ask yourself, often more than once. What makes me lose track of time? What are the things that make me feel most alive when I do them? What would I do even for free, just for the pleasure of it? What kind of thing gives me that feeling of, this is what I'm here for, even if I've never verbalized it before? Sometimes, your Ikigai is already right there in front of you, just waiting for you to stop, look, and recognize it. 2. Kaizen, the philosophy of continuous improvement. If Ikigai gives you the why, Kaizen teaches you the how. Kaizen is a philosophy that essentially means improve a little bit every day. That's it, no more, no less. It's looking at anything in your life, health, career, relationships, habits and asking yourself, how can I be 1% better today than I was yesterday? It might seem small. It might even seem insignificant, but that is exactly where the secret lies. Because, you see, our brain hates abrupt changes. Every time you try to launch a revolution overnight, it panics. That's why the promise of starting Monday, I'll change everything almost never works. You're trying to break your own brain in half. Kaizen doesn't work that way. It doesn't ask you to be perfect tomorrow. It asks you to be just a little better today, then a little better tomorrow, and then another little bit. And when you add up 1% improvement every day, you know what happens. In 1 year, you're not 365% better. You are approximately 37 times better than when you started. That's not magic, that's math. It's the magic of compound interest applied to human development. Want to start running? Don't try to knock out 3 miles tomorrow. Walk for 5 minutes today, 7 minutes tomorrow. Before you know it, running will be as natural as brushing your teeth. Want to read more? You don't need to start with a book a week. Start with 4 pages a day. You know what that gives you at the end of the month? A whole book read. Want to save money? Start by setting aside $1 a day, then 2, then 5. The amount doesn't matter as much as creating the habit. Small steps trick the fear. The brain doesn't freak out over tiny changes. And that is how you begin to build any real, deep, and sustainable transformation. And you know what else? Every small step reinforces your identity. Every victory, no matter how minor, reminds you that you are a capable person, capable of changing, of growing, of transforming. 3. Gambaru, perseverance until the end. If Ikigai shows you the path, and Kaizen teaches you how to walk it, Gambaru gives you the strength not to give up, even when the road gets tough. In Japanese culture, there is this word gambaru, and it carries a force that, simply translated, means something like, give your best, go all the way, persist. No matter what happens. But look, don't confuse this with that shallow, just go for it, never give up talk you hear all over social media. It has nothing to do with that. Gambaru isn't about destroying yourself to achieve something. It's about developing an inner strength, a conviction so deep in what you're doing that you simply choose to continue. Even when it's not easy, even when it's exhausting, even when it hurts. It's that kind of resilience that isn't born from pride, but from meaning. When you remember why you started, you understand why you can't stop. It's what makes an athlete keep training after 100 defeats. It's what makes an artist continue painting even when no one buys their work. It's what makes an entrepreneur start over, even after failing, and failing again. It's what drove the Japanese to rebuild an entire country after the war. Gambaru is that it's looking at yourself in the mirror in the middle of a storm and saying, I will not quit. And here comes an uncomfortable truth that few people talk about. Life will test you, frustrate you, and knock you down a few times. And if you don't develop this emotional muscle, you'll stop halfway. You'll give up before the transformation can happen. And do you know what fuels Gambaru, your Ikigai? When you know why you do what you do, you can bear the weight of difficult days. And who else helps you? Kaizen, because you don't need to win at everything today. You just need to win today, and then tomorrow again, and then a little more. The world likes to romanticize talent, gift, and genius, but the truth is simple. The one who wins in the long run is not the one with the most talent. It's the one who doesn't stop. Life doesn't demand perfection. It demands consistency. For Hara Hachi Bu, the balance of moderation. There is a phrase that the residents of Okinawa say every time before they eat. A simple phrase, but one that carries an entire life principle. Hara Hachi Bu. Translated, it means something like, eat until you are 80% full. It seems like a silly rule about eating, right? But it is so much more than that. Hara Hachi Bu is a daily reminder that balance lives in the middle ground, that excess makes us sick, and that learning to stop before you're overburdened is, in fact, an act of emotional intelligence, self-care, and, most importantly, wisdom. How many times have you done this? You ate until you couldn't get up from the table, worked until you couldn't take any more, overloaded yourself with social media, binge-watching and information until your mind couldn't handle it. We live by crossing our own limits as if it were normal, and we only notice when the body starts screaming when anxiety, exhaustion, stress, and insomnia hit. Hara Hachi Bu reminds us that not everything you can do, you need to do. You don't need to eat until you explode. You don't need to work until you collapse. You don't need to consume everything, do everything, solve everything, or know everything. Learning when to stop is also an act of power, a form of defense against the supersaturation of modern life. It started as a rule for mindful eating because they understood that the way we eat reflects the way we live, but it applies to everything. Balance in food, balance in work, balance in relationships, balance in the use of time, screens, and mental energy. In practice, start by putting less on your plate, eating slower, and observing when your body says, "That's enough." But carry this into life. Put less weight on your day, less obligation, less pressure, less excess, and instead, more presence, more quality, more lightness. 5. Shoshin, the beginner's mind. There is a very dangerous trap that almost everyone falls into at some point in life. It's when you start thinking you already know. You know that feeling when you learn a little about something and suddenly feel like you master it. That you understand everything, that you no longer need to listen, study, or learn. Well, Japanese culture has an antidote for that. They call it Shoshin, the beginner's mind. Shoshin is the mental state of someone who, even after years of doing something, still approaches life with a curious, open, and humble perspective, as if it were the very first time. And if you stop to observe, all the great masters, the great sages, the geniuses of history, have this. They never position themselves as the sole owners of the truth. They are eternally students. The problem is that when you think you already know, you stop looking, you stop listening, you stop growing. Your mind closes, and without realizing it, you start to age from the inside out. Shoshin invites you to do the opposite, to look at things, even those you think you know, with a new, fresh, clean curiosity. In practice, this means asking questions, even when you think you know the answer. Listening more than you speak. Opening yourself up to learning even from those you theoretically know more than. And understanding that everyone knows something you don't. Shoshin is not about feeling small. It's about staying light, staying open, staying alive. The one who carries the beginner's mind never stops evolving. 6. Wabi-Sabi, the beauty of imperfection. Finally, we arrive at one of the most beautiful and poetic principles of Japanese philosophy, Wabi-Sabi. Wabi-Sabi is basically the understanding that everything in life is imperfect, unfinished, and impermanent, and that precisely because of this, it is beautiful. It is accepting that the wrinkles on your face tell a story, that the scars on your body are marks of overcoming challenges, that old worn-out piece of furniture has a beauty that no brand new object possesses. Wabi-Sabi is seeing the beauty in imperfection, in asymmetry, in what is natural, simple, and transient. And this applies especially to you. Because look, perhaps you grew up believing you need to be perfect, that you can't fail, that you must have an impeccable life, a perfect career, a perfect body, a perfect mind. But no, the beauty isn't in the perfection, it's in the journey, it's in the path, it's in who you become by stumbling, getting up, making mistakes, and learning. Wabi-Sabi frees us from perfectionism. It allows us to be human. It allows us to be real. In practice, this means treating yourself with more kindness, accepting that you are a work in progress, that there are things you still don't know, don't master, haven't done, and that's okay. It means looking at yourself and others with more compassion, more lightness, more love, because nothing lasts forever. Everything changes, everything passes. And precisely because of that, everything is so precious. If you stop to think about it, these 6 principles are like pieces of a puzzle. Ikigai shows you the purpose. Kaizen teaches you how to walk step by step. Gambaru gives you the strength not to stop. Hara Hachi Bu reminds you that balance is more important than excess. Shoshin keeps your mind open, light, and curious. And Wabi-Sabi frees you from the illusion of perfection so you can simply live. No one here is talking about becoming a different person, becoming an enlightened being, or radically changing. That's not what this is about. It's about taking away what weighs you down. It's about aligning what matters. It's about remembering that living is much more than surviving. And you don't need to move countries, isolate yourself in a temple, or drop everything to start. You can start right now, where you are, with what you have. Start reflecting, start adjusting, start living a little better every day. Between ideas, that's where we meet. Until the next pause. Like this video and share it with someone who needs this perspective.